It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich Bitch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Welcome back to the More Pod. You guys, I am so fucking excited because I have with me a very special guest today, Tiff Knighten. Tiff, welcome to the podcast.
I made it. I'm here. Hi, Ava.
Yay, we're doing it. Hi. Tiff, you and I have been friends for a while now. I was
Yeah.
actually looking at the calendar and I think it's 4 or 5 years.
That is so cool. It's been that long already?
Yes, because we met in 2018.
Yeah, you were literally like my keynote for an event.
I know.
Thanks for doing that. You were really good.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And I'm so excited to know you. We've been kind of on this entrepreneurial journey together. And in a lot of ways, we've had sort of a parallel path with working 9 to 5, taking the leap, starting our own businesses in a pandemic, all the things that come with that. And so I figured today we could record just one of our normal conversations because I love being able to have you as someone in my close community of fellow entrepreneurs. And there's just so much that we experience that is just new. And it's been really healing, at least for me, to have someone in my corner that also knows what I'm going through.
Absolutely.
And I feel that we should create a pod episode today that we wish we had maybe right before we took the leap or as we were really starting our own businesses. So
Girl, I wish there's so many things I wish I knew, but at the same time, that's the journey of it, of course. We figure out, we commiserate, we go back to the drawing board, we get our little wins, but it's been fun. It's been a fun little ride, and there's not a lot of people same thing. I've kind of built a community of entrepreneurs who are kind of in the similar situation because there's not so much of that around me. There's a lot of great creatives and entrepreneurs that I've come across, and I've really tried to have these moments and these spaces to exchange notes. So thank you for being there for those times too.
Yes. And before we get too deep, let me give you a proper introduction. So Tiffany Knighten, Tiff or Die, pick your choosing. You are the CEO of Brand Curators, which is an agency that is really amplifying diverse voices across all marketing disciplines. You are the host of the Main Character Energy podcast, which I love. So we've got our rich bitches manifesting original rich bitch experiences, meeting our main character baddies. And so
I love that.
Right?
What a crossover.
Such a great crossover. And I will also share that you're a Capricorn. You are my Capricorn queen, and I absolutely love that about you. And it's just like part of your bad bitch boss aura and vibe. And welcome.
I appreciate that, Ava. I'd like to, of course, first shout out to my fellow Capricorns and fellow Earth signs. I know how I get it. But also, Ava, in all your cat placements, for understanding and being able to just get it.
Yes. I mean, I'm an honorary Capricorn because I do have that stellium. It's crazy.
You definitely get it. But yeah, this crossover is like what I've been looking forward to for a while. And especially with I don't know, that it's just a natural, main character energy, manifesting rich bitch experiences. It just makes sense. It takes main character energy to do a lot of those things.
Oh,
I've been listening. I'm caught up on more.
And I love that. Thank you so much.
Main characters doing their solo travel, putting themselves first, self-care. I'm here for it.
Ugh. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. I would love to start off with just understanding a bit more about your journey. I would love to hear a bit about what you were doing before you decided to take the leap, join the corporate quitters movement a couple years back, and really what led you to starting your company, Brand Curators.
Yeah. Do we swear on this podcast, right?
Are you fucking kidding
Yeah,
me?
okay. I'm like, that's right. Yeah, I was fed the fuck up,
There
like
you go.
for real. Like, definitely hit my threshold. A lot of people's stories kind of start where mine did, which is like just in the middle of the pandemic, kind of being at a crossroads with my career and trying to figure out like what those next steps would be after having more time to just kind of really sit back and evaluate life
Yeah.
under the closest microscope ever. So it got to a point with my last job where I was like, you know what, I'm not seeing the opportunities for things that I want to do with people who look like me, who are doing incredible things out in this world. Like, I wanted to kind of get more into working with entrepreneurs and emerging businesses. There were so many businesses popping up during the pandemic. So I started off just like kind of doing my own passion projects to support these businesses. And then I kind of found out that there was a need to really support, especially entrepreneurs of color in a higher capacity who were getting a lot of attention from the like all the attention that was going to black owned businesses, for example, and people kind of rushing to lift them up, which was great. But yeah, I just saw that there was like kind of a gap in the market when it came to helping them with like their press and their marketing, their visibility, things like that. And so I was always freelancing. I've been freelancing since my early days, and I was like at Viacom MTV and NASDAQ and a few other agencies. So I decided to kind of take my clients that I had and go full time. Never planned to, literally never planned to. It was one of those things where it kind of came as like a crazy idea. Like, I think I really could do that. I'm not seeing what I want to see, so I think I need to create the space. Um, and to be honest, Ava, I gave myself like, I think I gave myself like 4 weeks to decide if I was gonna quit my job. I was like, if I like reach the savings goal, if I like maybe get a new client, if I like kind of gave myself some parameters because, Capricorn. Gave
Yes.
myself like this little checklist. Like, if I am really good during these 4 weeks about, moving the needle forward on a business, I'll do it. And honestly, I got my sign within like 2 weeks. Like, two
Mm.
weeks into intentionally deciding that like that might be the next direction, I was getting confirmation after confirmation that that's what I needed to do from like some of the clients I already had saying that they wanted to work with me more and can we increase your contracts, to just other things working out. And so I just really went on faith with that one. Like, I just was like, you know what, let's see what this would be like. And best decision ever. We'll never go back. Nothing's better than being my own boss. No matter how hard it gets, it's like you pick your battles because yeah, there's a lot that I learned since. It, there's
Oof.
things I thought it would be, and then there's things that would have turned out to be, but still I would pick it every time.
I love that. Did you have one specific breaking point? Like, I knew you were getting a lot of signs and like different indicators, but do you remember having like one big, like, this is it? Or was it just a culmination of all those little things adding up?
I think it was a combination of all the little things. For me, having multiple signs felt
Mm.
like one big sign.
Yeah.
Because it was just like more dopamine, like hitting my brain, like, oh, that worked out. Oh, that worked out. And then I was like, you know what? This is what I have to do. And then, funny enough, I ended up posting a quit talk TikTok about it, and that got attention, and it turned into something that was, swept up in the Great Resignation movement and was going viral on social media, which was scary because I made that decision with my whole chest. Like, I was like, I quit, and I did it, by the way, by going to my boss and formally resigning with 2 weeks notice. But in
Yes.
celebration, I posted a video saying like, I quit, I did it. And once, the quit talk movement was going viral and ended up on LinkedIn, which I didn't expect, it was like the number one trending story on LinkedIn one weekend. And I was like, freaking out because there was like trolls and people being like, that's no way to quit your job, da 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 da. And I was like, first of all, that's not what happened. Um, but that was kind of like a weird moment, but I still felt like very strongly that I made the right decision. I did not care. I instantly felt better that I wasn't in like the constraints of, a corporate environment.
Yeah. And I think we'll touch on that too, but it is true. It's like there is a big moment of you're almost choosing to be seen when you opt into owning your own business and like becoming an entrepreneur. And there is a higher level of visibility. And,
Right.
that's something where it's like they don't really tell you how it's going to happen or when, but, there's two sides to that coin as well. And just being, close to you and kind of observing your journey, I know that was something that was unexpected too, of like everyone all weighs in with their opinion all of a sudden. It feels like as soon as you become um like once you make a choice that's not the mainstream in any capacity of life, whether we're talking career, lifestyle choices, whatever it may be, it's like you automatically become just
Like
a,
vulnerable.
a vulnerable a
Yeah.
vulnerable person and also a trigger for so many people
Yes.
who don't
So
want
true.
to think about, where they're at in their path. And the reason why it's like, all of a sudden we've got trolls hopping in the chat. It's like, well, they probably wish they could do what you're doing, but don't have the courage or the bravery or like, didn't start 25 years ago when they could have. And a lot of it takes you on this very spiritual journey in a way. And that's something I'm excited to get into with you too, because it's like, I think we have ideas of what life is going to be like as entrepreneurs. And then reality hits.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes.
I want to get into some of the things that we wish we knew, or maybe not, as we were really embarking on this journey of entrepreneurship, because I think that there is such a larger conversation, especially in the social media sphere around this now, too. Like it's almost trendy in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, like, very seasoned entrepreneurs are annoyed by this, where it's like it's not a new thing to like own a business or be a business owner or a freelancer, but it almost like came into fashion in a sense.
Yes, yes, because that's where a lot of my like, not, it wasn't like, I'm not gonna categorize it as imposter syndrome, but my pause, let's call it, like I had some pause with like, even, around my personal brand, of course, on this journey I was making that story consistent with my journey. I'm trying to speak on it, I'm trying to document it. It was, becoming very public, but I almost felt silly sometimes just thinking about the fact, like, there's people who quit their job before me, and there's, like you said, like the freelancing's not new, being a business owner is not new. It's a hot topic, like came into fashion is the perfect way to put it. But that definitely kind of made me feel like a little cringe in my own posting some things, but I had to really push through that to be like, well, this is unique to my specific story. So that's something I also try to share with people who, as we talk about personal branding and how you tell your story, that like it's not about what other people did. It's definitely about how you handled it in the moment.
Mm,
So I was trying to just stand in that, but I definitely kind of felt, kind of would check that a lot.
vulnerable. I think that's a word we're going to come back to. It's like, it's a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you've handled it so well. And you have a great point. And I think that's one of the things, and we can get into them. It's like what we expected versus the reality of things. And when we do see people sharing their personal stories, I think that's so empowering. And I love that anyone who has the courage to show up and share any little or big thing about themselves and can bring that vulnerability to others, I think is really helpful. And at the same time, that also, at least for me, when I was starting to build my business as a social consultant outside of the corporate world, I like fell into the trap of doing a lot of looking around.
Oh, yeah.
And especially as a new entrepreneur, when you're trying to just figure out like what the fuck is going on here, like what's life, like how do other people like me exist in the world, because it's a totally different lifestyle than 9 to 5. And there's just so many things that you couldn't have told me. But when you do too much of that looking around, it can, and too much of, listening to other people's stories and trying to almost recreate a version of someone else's story, I think that's something tough that a good thing almost becomes a bad thing in a sense.
Oh, yeah. It's like, especially when you're building a business from scratch, it makes sense to like want to compare to make sure it's like, market standards or like, like industry standards, or you're having like market rates, or that like the language is, making sense so that you can attract your, dream clients, looking at competitors, like that's part of it. But like it's that like consumption versus like creation, conversation, because I know that starting out, that gave me so much like I was just kind of spinning on a lot of my ideas so much, and it was causing me to like really delay and slow down any progress that I was having, because I was looking around so much and trying to like
Yeah.
recreate other things without knowing it, like it wasn't intentional. It just was like I was consuming so much. So if I would be able to go back in time, or if I could tell someone else what to do, it's like focus on like obviously what you're good at, and think about, how to build that out as much as you can before you start to polish it off with like, research and kind of looking around to see if you can make it better. But if I had spent more time on some of those things at the beginning, it wouldn't have been such a, what I Ava, you know what I always say? Like
What?
when I'm working on things too much, I always am like, I have to be pencils down, like pencils down, Tiff, because I will just keep revising something so much. I'm like, I hate it today. Like I'm gonna redo it, and I'm still working on it, looking around, doing things, and it's like you have to be done and ready to put it out to the world. So spend some time with it in your own space. Keep
Yeah.
creating before you consume too much and get lost in it.
Ooh, yes. That definitely resonates. And I think knowing who we are, like personality wise, you hit on that point of like, nothing will ever be like perfect.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to be fully done, but damn, we'll try. We'll spend hours
Oh,
and
yeah.
days and weeks and months. And that's something that can be like fairly self torturous.
Very much so. Like when you're perfectionist type A queens like us, yeah, it's a little bit crippling.
Oof, it's so true. Um, well, let's talk about some of our expectations versus reality. Continuing on from these, I think that I kind of want to start from the beginning, because I think in my mind, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, but in my mind, when I first, or even before, like I officially launched my business, I had a very clear idea in my head about what it was in terms of how I was going to make my money, like how I was going to support myself and what the structure of my business was going to be. And then you kind of go out in the world and life laughs at you a little bit. Um, so I would love to start off with like our day one business structures and like what expectations did you have and what's the reality of your business structure today and how have you had to sort of evolve that?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. I mean, one, my business structure didn't involve like time for exploration and like creativity, to be honest. Even though
Mm.
I'm running a creative agency, that kind of sounds like, what do you mean? But my days originally, the way I was thinking about them were very like, the calls, the research, the planning, like those types of things, like kind of making, ideas of schedules centered around the functions of what my work is. Um, And then it's taken me, quite a bit to get to this point. I would say maybe even in the last like 6 months, I've really started to center my business maybe in the last year, I've centered my business more around like play and exploration in a way. Um, that means, really being intentional about making sure that I'm getting out and seeing things and exploring through travel or through meeting people and having new experiences. That's why I love that, with the pod, like you have like something built in to help you have new experiences. I think that's really smart, because especially like you realize as an entrepreneur that, of course, when you say, I'm going to start my own business, you're like, I'm the boss. I can take off when I want. But the truth is, because you're running a business, you then get this immense stress because you're like, everything falls on me. And like, I need money and I need like security. Like, so it doesn't really happen that way. It's not like, I'm just going to go to the beach this day. So I actually got away from that, even though that's one of the things I really wanted, because I thought that's what came with being your own boss. So I was grinding my ass off like that first year, as anyone should. Like, you got to do what you got to do. And then
Mhm.
once I got into a mode where I felt like, okay, I've got my foundation together, I was like, how can I incorporate, getting out more? How could I incorporate actually working remote and not feeling like I'm chained to my desk still? And so,
Mm.
yeah, that came with practice. I have a I have something that grinds my gears that I do want to share.
Yes, please share with the group.
You touched on it earlier, and I was like, "Ooh, that triggered me." It's so, we were talking about like people kind of glamorizing the whole, this whole like, be your own boss, work remote movement. I think one thing that I started to see, I can't remember if we talked about this before, but one thing I started to see on like TikTok is like, oh my God, you don't have to have like a degree or any experience to be like a social media manager. You can be on the beach,
Oh.
like running accounts like me and make like 6, 7 figures. It's easy. Like, I'll show you how. Follow me. And I would be like, what? Like, I'm not mad at the girlies who are trying to find a new career path. That's great. I'm not even saying, like, I'm not trying to be like, listen, you need a 4-year degree. Not that. It's just like, don't diminish the work that goes into people who have careers, especially in social. And I know you know what I mean, Ava.
That gives me such heartburn.
Doesn't it?
Whoo.
It's really like,
Oh,
when I see it, I'm like, I just close my phone.
yes. So that, ooh, yes. Let me regroup for a second.
Right.
It's so frustrating because I think that, we're new on this journey in terms of being entrepreneurs. And it isn't wrong for someone else to be new on a journey with picking up social media as a
Totally.
career, right? And like everyone has to start somewhere. So I personally have no problem with that. But you're right. There is the piece of like, this is so fucking easy. Anyone can do it from your cell phone in Trinidad and Tobago. It's like, no, you fucking can't. Like, there's no
Dude.
Wi Fi
It's
there.
like, have
Like,
you done it? Have you
you
done that?
can't see your phone screen through the fucking sun that's blinding you. Like, there's no way you're actually doing that. And I think that leads me
So
into
that's number one point.
false, scientifically impossible. That leads me into the next sort of point that I was recalling is that there's this kind of built-in like myth of overnight success in terms of anything that you want to do will happen like quickly or easily for you. And for me, I know that was one of the biggest fucking kicks in the ass because I was like, well, I'm not really changing industries. Like I have, my 13 years of expertise in social media. So like it's not really different.
Hmm.
Everything is different, like
It
everything
is.
you could ever imagine. So, what were your expectations around success and what that meant to you and how quickly you would achieve it? Because I know you've got your Capricorn checklist.
Oh, yeah.
And what is the reality of that today?
Ooh, I love that question because there was a time where I kept hearing a few of the same things. People kind of checking in on me and being like, how's the entrepreneurship thing going? You know, trying to kind of gauge, like, was it worth it, and how are you doing now? And so one thing that I commonly heard was like, so, like, how many clients do you have? And I feel like that felt like a measure at the beginning. Like, it's like, oh, like, obviously the more clients the better, the more clients the more money, like, kind of makes sense. And like, obviously with more clients, more work, like, okay, more maybe like people on your team. So that type of growth seemed to be, I'm going to say, like, the goal. It wasn't like a personal goal to me yet. I think having clients was important in terms of, like, security and making sure that, like, I'm bringing in income every month, of course. But I didn't feel like I had to have like 10 or 15. Like, I didn't feel like there's like a number in my head. But it's still in the back of my head. And it would kind of, like, certain things in the back of your head will kind of revisit you when you're, thinking about like how far you've come and where you're at, type of thing. So I started to realize, this is a new realization where I'm like, after the experiences I've had with just working with different types of people and brands and organizations and companies, and I've had so many incredible experiences, whether they were like short term or long term, that have helped me really realize what I like and what I don't like. And so now that I'm at a place where I think that I'm starting to attract more of the type of projects that I really like, and on a consistent basis, and I'm able to balance them better, where I feel like, I don't want to have like 20 clients and have no sleep and no time for myself. The whole goal, again, was to keep exploring, being able to travel, being able to meet people, being able to, like, do what I need to do. I think I should take a step back and say that when I first launched the agency, I really wanted to prioritize my mental health. Like, that was like really the main goal. So be able to not only just explore and play and create, but to be able to do things intentionally throughout the week. Whether it was like exploring new, like, self-care type like experiences, literally just being able to go for walks guilt-free, like stuff like that, where I didn't have to feel like I'm like running back to like some shitty corporate structure and toxic workplace. Like, I wanted to like do my thing. So I kind of found out that measuring success with like quantity was not the goal. It's really like the quality. So I would rather have like a handful of quality, really dope clients that I'm growing with and making strides with. And that's success to me, compared to just
Mm,
having too much on my plate and being able to like flex that I have that.
yes, I love that. And
What about for you?
yeah, I feel like I found sort of a similar sentiment, and we've probably even chatted about this, but it's like when I launched my business, I really desired to help a lot of more people one on one,
Mm-hmm.
because that was something I couldn't really do in the corporate space. I was spending my time and energy with one company, but I saw a gap and it's like, wow, like I'd love to be able to support, people like us, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. But that business model takes a level of scale where it is more, you do need a significant number of one-on-one clients, for example,
Yeah.
to life's expensive out here today, like to pay the
Uh,
mortgage. And it's like,
it's crazy out here.
yeah. So I think one of my kind of, uh, and you don't know what you don't know. And so I was very stubborn on that when I first launched my business, and I was stressing myself out about it. And then I realized I needed to find what I like to call a couple of stabilizers. So rolling more, consulting contracts with larger businesses into my business mix.
Yeah.
So that actually unlocked my ability to support individuals at the same time, and not being like so stressed about the scale thing, because that really threw me out of alignment in terms of like my purpose, in serving people. It's not like, how many clients can I attract so that I can take this trip, like what a terrible intention
I
for
know.
business. But I did have to kind of rethink like, okay, well, this doesn't really work right now. Maybe in 3 more years, like that will be a much larger piece of my business. And so for now, like, here's the pivot I'm going to make. And it is introducing more kind of stabilizing consulting contracts. And, that makes me think too about the expectation in terms of everyone on the outside assuming like if you are a business owner, like you're solely provided for through your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also a lot of ego around that because there are points like in my first year that I probably could have used a part-time job, Tiff. Like
Yeah, yeah, for
I could
sure.
have
I've
used
been there.
that, and
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't do it. I was so stubborn. The Taurus and Capricorn were popping out like crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to change the idea in my mind that I had of how my business was going to work. And I learned really, really quickly that inflexibility isn't going to work. So that was
Yeah.
that was a big one for me.
I feel like too, I've been there. I know exactly what you mean. And I think for me, the block in the ego trip was like, what do I look like getting a job after I like was like publicly quitting my job? Like quitter
Yes.
became part of that identity, my identity at that point. So I was like, am I getting a job like in secret? Like, it became like this really weird, like, do I need to like, I was just trying to think of other things to kind of bring in another stream of income while I'm still building, which is normal because,
Totally.
you know, especially with like when I started my business, I didn't start the traditional way. So, when we talk about like expectations versus reality, like what I wish I knew, I mean, again, I just said like I gave myself like just a few weeks to be like, what am I doing? Okay, I'm quitting. And then I didn't even really take time between. Like I had to kind of start making money again, right? So I already was like just continuing on with my part-time clients, just made them full-time now that next month. And so when people usually start, we're a little different, I know, as like service providers, but usually when people
Mhm.
start, I don't know, like a product-based business or a startup or something, there is that like time before that launch period where it's like you're either fundraising, like whatever that means for you, if that's like get like crowdfunding, grants, saving, like whatever it is, and you have that period to build and create the messaging, create this, like, have that rollout. And I think for you and I, we kind of like, because like our business was another form of our like career path and what we already know, we just kind of took those pieces and just started with them. So
Yeah.
you just got to keep going. You got to figure it out. And if someone needs, if you're building your business and you need to get a full-time job, I mean, sorry, a part-time job or a full-time job because you need some damn benefits while you're trying to build the business, like
Mhm.
don't be too proud to do that. Like that makes sense. Like it
Totally.
really makes sense.
Totally. And you don't see that part on the internet, but like plenty of people like have that part-time support. They have that big consulting contract. They have a financial stabilizer. And yes, that's like don't be too proud. Don't be too proud to not do that. And even having a part-time job, it's like you're freeing up if you come from a full-time world, you're still freeing up so much of your space and energy to be able to build your business and
Mm-hmm.
have like maybe a less jarring transition. But I think like we were in like 2020, we're like, what could be more jarring than just like
What
the state of life? So why not just make everything chaos?
that's what was kind of funny about when we decided to start. Like everything was already like shit was burning down. So it's like, what does it hurt? I'm gonna take a risk.
Right.
But at the same time,
Ooh.
I will say like it doesn't seem so bad to like if you're in a toxic, I'm thinking about like some of my most toxic workplaces, most of them. And I'm like,
Mhm.
quitting and just being like a barista sounds amazing in comparison. Like, there is no shame in having like a part time job. I mean, there's
Right.
none, anyways. But like, if you think there is, just think about the piece of like just making coffees, like instead of dealing with people who suck all the time. Like everybody loves
Right?
coffee, so you're making someone's day.
And you're like becoming like you're like leveling up your own life skills. Like if you can make a fucking bomb ass coffee, you go up 3 pegs in my
Oh,
book. It's like
listen, it's true. Anybody I know who like I used to bartend, anybody I know who like had like some sort of job like that, like retail or worked in the food industry or something, then you'll have some cool party skills, like
hell yes. I'm all for that. That was definitely a big one. You alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I think for me, one of the most attractive pieces about finally being my own boss and breaking out of the corporate world is being able to manage my own time and unplugging from that like group chat that has like your green available bubble lit 24/7 and feeling that you can take a spin around the block without getting in trouble somehow by some employer. The time freedom that comes with entrepreneurship is really a beautiful thing. I don't know how I want to hear your take on this, but I almost didn't know what to do with my time freedom once I first got it. It was too much freedom, frankly.
yes.
I wasn't used to it. I didn't know how to handle it, and I don't want to say I went on a bender, but like I definitely remember my first few months of being my own boss of like sleeping in till
Oh
10,
my God.
like spending a few hours sitting out in the sun. It was summertime, of course. I was basically having my endless summer vacation.
That's great.
Um,
That sounds amazing. I'm glad you did.
right?
Yeah.
But
Listen.
then, listen.
Like, because it's like
It
you
was
don't get that
great.
anymore. I mean,
I
you
know. It
can.
was
You
great.
can. We're making time for it, but
It was great till it wasn't. And I was like, oh shit, the mortgage is due. So,
right.
what was your experience with
I love it. Oh, man.
what was your initial experience with that time freedom, and where are you at now? Like how do you mentioned, incorporating space for maintaining mental health. Like where did you start off with all of this time freedom, and where are you at now in terms of what's really working for you?
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing to talk about because the expectation is, yeah, I'm not tied to for us it was not it was Skype. Oh my God, I can't even, if I hear that sound,
Ooh,
I swear I'll just like crawl under my desk and like put my head down. Triggered. But
triggered.
at first I was the same way. Like I was very much like, and you know what? I'm glad that I did take time to kind of be off schedule for a little bit, just for a little bit, because like you said, it could get out of control, which I will get to as well. But in that initial like coming off of the hamster wheel, that's cool because clearly, I mean, I think I saw a statistic that said, recovering from, toxic work environments takes like years, like
Mm,
literally years. And I say that too, coming from someone who has dealt with a lot of like specifically like microaggressions and like discriminatory, shit in corporate that I kind of just like, rolled with the punches, let it roll off. You just kind of get through it. Like it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal type of thing. So being out of that felt really freeing, and I wanted to like bask in that for a little bit. Definitely was like
yes.
sleeping in. Definitely was like feeling like free as fuck. Um, but you'll learn so quickly that especially when you do have clients that you're dealing with, that other people are on their corporate schedules, like other like it's
Yes,
like
they
your
are.
clients are corporate, surprise, they're working
They
9 to
sure
5,
are.
so they're looking for you during those hours. And so it's just, I
Yeah.
found it kind of interesting how like you do in some way kind of still touch the structure of it, it depends on how you approach it, because you can still have your freedom and your structure, like, combination, as long as you're flexing good boundaries, which was, a work in progress for me, for sure. I think I still had a little bit of like corporate PTSD. So I found myself doing some relaxation, but I also found myself feeling like someone looking for me, like still kind of feeling like I had a boss, which like kind of felt like I kind of was giving that responsibility to my clients a little bit, in a way, like where it's like feeling like I have to, jump to them. I'm very attentive with my clients, of course, but at the time it was just a
Mm-hmm.
different type of like feeling, because I'm now bossless for the first time, like in my life. So that was like very strange. So what ends up happening, like at this point in being a business owner, is like I am so religious with my schedule, because if I'm tight with it, with like things I need to get done, trying to move the needle forward with like something I'm working on every day, I can still have plenty of time to fuck off when I want. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, I'll start early, work on some things, feel like satisfied that I got a lot done and that I was there for my clients, and like nothing's, fallen through the cracks. And then, it's possible for me to have some guilt-free time, like away from the desk, or take like, make it a long weekend or whatever I decide to do, just communicating that I'm doing that and not have to feel like that's a bad thing. I mean, Ava, I can talk all day about the fact that like I felt so guilty about taking time off for my own business at one point. Like it
Isn't that
switched so
wild?
fast. Yeah, it switched so fast. It was like I'm my own boss, I can do what I want, to working like overtime like crazy, just trying to make shit work. And then being like, I can't take a day off. Like I feel so weird about it. Like I have so much to do. And this is definitely going to be my summer of being like, no, like I need this. There's no guilt here.
So that's the whole like, I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7.
Favorite quote.
Yes, we
I think
did.
about it all the time when I'm up at like 2 a.m. Like, yeah, this is what they're talking about. With the Canva designs. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about,
P-
Eva.
Picking the right shade of brown or purple,
Always,
debating about it for hours and days.
always debating. I'm starting to look at it. It's like, I'm like, you know what? I have to close this screen. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
Pencil down, Tiff.
Pencils down.
Um,
I'm glad you know.
woo. Yeah, that is the thing. I think it's so wild. Like in one sense, that time and the boundaries they blur, because the great thing about working for yourself is that you would literally do anything and everything to make your business work. It's something that you're passionate about. You feel like you have purpose and there's no limitations. So your
Hmm.
business can do, look, grow, shape shift as much as you want it to.
Yeah.
And it's all up to you. That's so cool. And it's also almost addicting in a way. Like it's almost a drug. And you're like, well, I need to do more. And I need to, it's like you're always just like, one more thing, one more thing. And like, it's sometimes really hard for me to know like when enough is enough.
Oh, yeah.
And like, what's your human design type again?
A generator.
Okay. So you're a generator and you have that inherent energy. It's just like you're like keep on keeping on, and it's like
I don't know how.
I'm the well, it's just inherent. But I'm the projector that's like I need 3 weeks of sleep for every 3 hours of work I do. So
Mm,
it's wild to try and like regulate this energy. I burn out really fast, and I don't know how that's been going for you in terms of like setting boundaries and expectations around boundaries and like protecting your space
oh
so
my
that you
gosh.
can continue to have momentum, but not like marathon and crash, because that was another thing for me where I wasn't really expecting that at all. I didn't really know what my expectation was because, again, typically you show up Monday through Friday for work and you clock in, not literally, but maybe clock out. All that goes out the window as an entrepreneur.
I'm like really feeling the, you know, really trying to avoid that, like having a marathon crashing. And that's why I know you're a fan of this. That's why I like don't believe in like algorithm hack like growth shit with like
Yes.
social and all that, and like in any aspect, but I'm using social as an example because it's like some people, as business owners, you're like, oh my God, I have to like post every day, and I'm going to post every day, and I'm going to bust my ass. And like, then after a week, I fall off the face of the earth for 2 months. And then I'm going to come back and do it again and have this burst. Like, that is so normal. Like, no, I'm not even saying that that's a bad thing. Like, no shade to that. But like, you don't have to do that to yourself, is the thing. Have I done that? Am
Right.
I guilty? Yeah. Like, yeah, I've done that. But I'm really trying to operate from that space of like, when I'm having those creative spurts, and I'm like, ooh,
Mm.
I'm feeling like I want to post about this. I want to do this. Or, ooh, you know what? Even though I have this like regimented schedule ish, like I try to kind of structure my weeks and my days similarly, where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe like creative, like content creation or like podcast stuff is on like these days of the week. And I have meetings on 2 days a week now. I try to like put them all on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm structuring things like that, but then leaving room for me to be able to be like flexible. If like I'm not in the mood for something, I'm not going to feel like guilty that I didn't do it. But at the same time, if I have some boundaries, I can have that flexibility. So that's why I'm really always like, okay, I I can be flexible and meet with somebody on a day that's like not my normal meeting time. And it's not going to make me crazy. Like, it's okay. I can be, like I can be flexible because for the most part, those things are on the same times, and I can then, communicate that and feel free enough to, on the other days, ebb and flow. There could be a Monday where I'm like, I'm so not feeling it. I hate this right now. Hey, literally my Wednesday is so free because I don't have meetings. I'll try again that time. And
Yeah.
that's been working for me so far. But um I do think that that's kind of like where that energy has to come from to avoid the burnout. But if I'm starting to feel burnt out, I really have to like take myself offline and be like, hey, listen, I don't have to feel guilty if I need to reschedule things. Like, things will always, you can always pick it back up.
Right. And I love what you say about like really riding the ebbs and the flows, and like when you feel like you do have the energy around something to do it. And then in the same breath, it's like when you don't have the energy to do it, don't do it. And it's okay. You will get it all done because you want to, like
Yeah.
that's, and like let it just flow a bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, there's so many, like, it's tough, right? Like, we grew up in the girl boss era. I was, when we talked
Yes.
about this, I was so girl boss. I was girl bossing so close to the sun. I was just fizzling out. I was just right there. And so I'm really reverse engineering that. Like, no one's gonna think I don't have a good work ethic if I don't do something. No one's measuring, I'm not doing what do you call those things that you do at the end of the year to get a
Like an
raise?
annual review.
Yeah, like I'm not doing an annual review. Fuck an annual review, by the
I
way.
already forgot what they're called. They don't exist to Tiff.
I forget. Um they were, mine were always excellent, obviously. But
Of course, same,
but
same, same.
yeah, we're like perfectionists a little bit. Like, oh, recovering
This,
overachiever over here.
yeah, this is the A student hour. That's what's
this
happening.
is this is it. Like, there's no like one way to do the entrepreneurship thing. Is basically like, you're gonna see the girl boss types like out here like selling their courses and doing the things and email lists, and you're gonna think you need all those things, and it might not work for you, and that's fine. Like, you and I have talked about this, Ava, where like there's some things that we've tried and it didn't necessarily work, and it's not because like you're like a failure at it, or like it doesn't really mean much. We have to lean into the things that we that come natural to us. For
Mhm.
example, that's why I really started to like podcasting, because it felt like something that I could like easily integrate into my life. I love to talk. I'm always sending voice notes. Like I'm like an audiobook listener. It just felt like my medium. And so like go
Mhm.
towards your medium. I was trying to get a newsletter off the ground for so long, it just wasn't happening for me. Maybe one day, but I don't think you have to do like all the things to consider yourself to be like a successful entrepreneur. You can like kind of have your zone of what you like, because that's what you need to continue to sustain it.
Totally. And the marketing piece is so huge because, again, when you start out and you're looking around and you're like, okay, like how do other entrepreneurs in my pocket of the world conduct their business? And you start looking at all the things. It's the weekly emails, it's the daily social posts, it's the, and it's like, I forced myself into weekly emails for like a solid, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy it. Like
You weren't having fun with it,
for
were you?
I wasn't having fun with it and it became like someone was telling me to do it and I'm like, "Who? It's just me. Like why am I forcing myself into doing something that doesn't feel like it's in alignment?" And the podcast, like for both of us, it's something that it's a format that we both enjoy. And who's to say that a newsletter is better than a podcast or vice versa? It's just like finding the things that work for you and the things that you can do consistently and that you enjoy doing consistently.
That's the key. That's the secret.
That's the grand secret.
That's the secret,
Um
because it's a secret that's not a secret, because you really think you have to have like all the avenues. And then you come to realize like nobody's fucking checking for you like that. Like it's like you will burn yourself out quicker just doing this newsletter all the time, when you could have spent that energy over on the podcast, because it's already what you like to do and you're already growing a following with it. Like stay in your lane. And you know what? While I'm here, because I just feel like I need to shit on Instagram real quick.
Go for it.
Looking for any reason to shit on
Do it.
Instagram.
Do it. Do it.
It's like, yeah, it's been too long since I've shit on Instagram. It's just for me, especially for business. Like, yes, I use Instagram for business. We do, as we all do, and like it's what it's what we're used to. It used to serve us so well. It's so different now. The reach sucks, like whatever. um it's like you have to decide what these like platforms are doing for you, or like how you want your visibility to show up. Because for Instagram, I took the pressure, I decided to take the pressure off myself and like share moments, like treat it like what it was originally used for. So I'm trying to use it like that. I mean,
Mhm.
I've gotten business from Instagram, but it's not my main, it's not driving my business. So I'm not going to treat it like it is. I will show up, I'll be present, I'll have a presence on there, and I'm active. But I've gotten far more business from like word of mouth. So that tells me I should spend my energy networking. I've gotten more business through like LinkedIn. So I really should post more on there sustainably.
Sustainably.
Sustainably. I'm not going to be on there posting every day, and I'll never tell somebody else to. But it's like you have to
No,
go where where it makes sense.
I'm complete with you 100%. And if that place is Instagram, do it. Go
Yeah.
for it. Like ride the train, do it. If it's like your favorite thing, you love sharing on Instagram, like that makes perfect sense. And it sounds like we've both kind of navigated through like the ecosystem of marketing and all the tactics and even having like the professional knowledge of that too. Like we might be bringing this lens into like, well, this is how, if you're going to start a business, like these are all the things that you need to do. But it's like,
Yeah.
we
We
get to
set
do
ourselves
things our
up.
own way.
Hmm.
Totally. And I love that you said nobody's checking on you
Like,
because it's so funny. It's like, how many years is it going to take to deprogram, decondition from the constant feeling like someone is checking on you, looking over your shoulder, managing, measuring. It's like, no, that's like, we left that behind. That's not happening. So, and also, no one notices. If you miss
Yeah.
1 week of something, you miss one weekly newsletter, you don't have to like make a big apology next week. Literally, nobody
No.
noticed.
I've actually been trying to give myself the same leeway with the pod. Like,
Mm,
I've been consistent with it, but there was a time where I missed a week just because like things didn't align the way I needed to. And I decided I was not going to come down on myself because nobody cares. To be quite honest, like nobody cares. The next one will be back next week. Like it's not. People
yeah.
used to always say it's PR, not ER. And I
Oh
love
my
it.
God.
I, I love that one. It always it always reminds me like shit is okay. Like we're not gonna go there.
I love that. That's my first time hearing that.
I always would hear
I
that. I had the best professor who would just remind me, like she was literally like bad bitch, like PR queen, taught me everything I know, and would still at the end of the day be like, it's PR, not ER. Like, we got to relax. And I'm like, that has carried me for years. Shout out to Dr. Kathleen Rennie. Thank you.
shout out. We love
Yeah.
this.
You know, one
Oh.
more thing that I wanted to share that just came back into my mind that I wish somebody told me. So I want to share.
Hmm.
I wish someone told me that, like, it's okay to be a bad employee. Okay.
Ooh, this
Here's
sounds juicy.
here's what I mean by this. I was wrestling with this one for a while, and I finally realized that this I needed to hear this. So when I first heard this, I was immediately like, that's not me. I was a great employee. That wasn't me. I'm a
Obviously.
superstar, right? Like I was like again, the like overachieving, like came from like high school, college overachieving, coming into the workforce, trying to be like the best I can be. But I was a bad employee because I'll say bad loosely, but
Okay.
I wasn't the employee they wanted me to be because I was always not trying to stay in those confines of going with the flow, just getting it done, the standard shit. I really wanted to like change things all the time. I really wanted to like make things better. I really wanted to like come up with ways to improve things, and you realize that people like really don't fucking like that because for a
Yeah.
few reasons. Like sometimes it's like, people want things to kind of stay the same, because they don't want to like create more work maybe, or like just like red tape and different. I worked in nonprofits where like, they really a lot of times just want to keep things the way they are, because of just like corporate structure, or it's people who feel like straight up threatened that you're trying to like shake shit up too much, take their job, like whatever. That was
Hmm.
never the case. It was just that like I always wanted to like make things like larger than life, and just be like, this could be improved on, this could be better, like what are we doing with this? And I made it like my personal mission all the time. So I even had a boss when I quit one job say to me, you were better than this role anyway. Like you were more ambitious, and like maybe you're too creative for this role anyway. And it felt like a really backhanded compliment. Like I was really upset by it, even though it sounds like a nice thing. I was upset by it because I just felt like I had always been stifled in that role. Like I felt like I wasn't getting like
Mm.
resources I needed, the support I needed to like really like make things better. And it was just like, yeah, you were too creative for this anyway. Like maybe something else will suit you better. And I think all those things, now that I've had time to reflect, just meant that like I was meant to be an entrepreneur, and I was meant to like really create my own path, and I can be as like wacky and fucking weird as I want.
Totally. I mean, that seems like all the confirmation you could ever need, because it's like, well, if I was too great for this role, like, why didn't you give me a better role?
Exactly.
And I think that, like that is you were entrepreneurial in nature in that role, because you're showing up and you're looking around for things that you could continue to do outside of maybe your job description, because you have that drive and that energy. And I think that suits entrepreneurship so well, because being a self-starter and, getting shit done and having a vision and working towards bringing it to life. I mean, that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you do have a very small, specific box that someone expects you to sit in. And I think that's why it's like, well, we don't want to do that anymore.
No,
We want the
no.
freedom. Speaking of freedom, I also want to talk about one last expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
And this one is specific to location freedom.
Mm.
So, you and I both have businesses that you're a little more rooted in New York City in terms of having office space and team members and those types of things. However, I would argue that we're both still pretty mobile in
Yeah.
terms of where we work from. I'm completely digital. So, part of why I built my business is because I wanted to bring travel back into my life and I wanted to really continue to pursue passions that gave me that creative kind of rejuvenation, like having to get out in the world and be re-inspired. Being an entrepreneur, running your own business gives you more flexibility and freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to location freedom, I mean, this was like one of my main, I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm starting my own business because I need to be able to work from London. Like
Yes.
that was just it,
Instantly. Yeah. I'll catch you guys in
instantly.
the
Once
UK.
Literally, once that dropped in for me, I was like, nothing is coming in the way of that. But I think there's also a lot of judgment around this. And maybe it feeds into the girly who is doing social media from the beach, supposedly,
Supposedly.
around what, right? Around what location freedom actually looks like. So I would love to hear a bit about what you thought it would be like, and then kind of moving through some experiences, like maybe sharing about your stint in Toronto last summer, like what you worked through and learned from that, and then how you're going to be approaching your location freedom moving forward for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I was like right there with you, Ava. All I could think about was like, for me, I wasn't even thinking as big at first. Like, I honestly was like, I just want to work in a bunch of different coffee shops and like, and of course, like do trips and not have to like worry about how much PTO I'm taking. And then it did turn into like, especially like starting to dabble more into like content creation and working with different brands and like getting back into working like events again. I was like, I really can be anywhere. Not only is that like it's in my DNA, I mean, I'm a military kid. Like, I would always move every 2 years growing up. Um, I'm also an only child, so I'm really quick to like make new friends, different places. It's like how I survived. So
Yeah.
as a business owner, I was kind of like, this makes sense and fits in with my lifestyle so much to be able to do that. And we're so lucky. Like, honestly, we're so lucky that we get to do that because when I think about having to like ask somebody if I could take time off, I'm like, oh my God, like, I hated that. It just feels so, we don't live our lives like they do over in, Europe where they take like months off, sabbaticals. And it's so important, like just to integrate that more. And I will admit that, I kind of said this earlier, but the more that I was like working and, you know, really grinding that first year, I kind of got away from that vision again. And I had to start to remember like, I started this off promising that I would do quarterly retreats for myself and like go travel somewhere for like a week and even like mix working on my business with some self care just to make sure that I'm getting out, but like giving myself a reason so I didn't have to like
Yeah.
feel guilty. Like it's always that guilt working on it. But that's when I started to realize how fun it could be to like, mix work and pleasure with, going to Toronto last summer. That was one of the first things that kind of reminded me like why I really did this. So last summer I applied to be a part of Black House, which is House, a Toronto-based incubator. They do programming for entrepreneurs. It's centered around like innovation. It was started by the EXO crew, so that's like the weekend's creative director Lamar Taylor and Ahmed Ishmael. And they started this program to really be able to bring together all different types of like young creatives in like a networking sense, but also trying to give them the essentials they need to like grow their business and like meet the right people. So I, longtime EXO fan, like love everything that they do creatively. So it was just a natural fit to apply, and I got in. So I found out that it was not going to be like a Zoom situation. It was taking place in Toronto, and they invited me to. They're like, "You can come. It's here though." So I said, "You know what? Like, new adventure loading," and I literally like
Yes.
leased a spot in Toronto for like 8 weeks last summer and just lived there. I networked. I, met so many cool people. Like, shout out to Lamar and Ahmed, who really made the experience worthwhile and gave me a chance to kind of like do what I set out to do, like literally lived in another country while I'm still working, but also like picking up new skills. So that opened up a door for me to say, like, I want more of this. I'm going to intentionally integrate this into my, life more. And that led to me, being like, you know what, I want to just do more like travel, speaking, travel, work with different brands, and making sure that that's also just like kind of just integrated into my business so that I never have to sit in one place.
I mean, first of all, like that is so fucking iconic. And when I heard that you got into that program, I think I screamed out loud. Like I was just so
Oh,
excited for
thank you,
you. I
Ava.
was like, "Ah!"
You know how
I
on
was like,
brand that
"This
was for
is
me.
yes, I know." Like and it's amazing to just think about had you been inside of that 9 to 5 structure, you couldn't have gone to Toronto for 2 months.
I
You don't have that
mean,
much vacation time.
you
I mean,
don't. It
it's
was
just
like, it was the only way you could. Like, not
yeah,
everybody, like we said, not everyone has the flexibility. And I would have felt silly if I didn't take advantage of that flexibility. On top of the fact that, like, because of it, like, I have clients in Canada now. Like, I've met people that
yeah.
I still have relationships with. And I hope that more experiences like that bring me to new places this year as well.
Totally. And I think that's part of just redefining success in business too. It's like, even if something feels like really fun, or like maybe you're like, I don't know exactly how this connects to my work right now, but chances are it will. And that is the magic of entrepreneurship because
Hmm.
there's just so many, it's just the energy, right? And it's like
Hmm.
being in the right place at the right time and connecting with people. And at the end of the day, it's like it is a write-off. That is a write-off.
Yes, that's a write
Everything is
off.
a write-off.
I
Everything's a
think about
write-off for
Schitt's
your
Creek.
business. Oh, I love my
It's a
favorite
write
show.
off. That was so that was like, that episode had me dying. I was a little bit late to Schitt's Creek, so I was an entrepreneur by the time I saw that episode, and I was like, "Oh, that's good."
Absolutely. That's oh, we'll have to run that one back just in honor of this episode. But
Yes.
I mean, it's so it's just the doors are so wide open as an entrepreneur and there's a lot that happens and it's, obviously so many expectations versus reality, but it is so incredibly rewarding and I think that's a perfect example, Tiff, of just the types of opportunities that you can open yourself up to when you just have that courage to really step out on your own and it's like you start co-creating with the universe and it's like anything that you want, anything that you dream, anything that you vision is possible. And we might have some challenges to overcome along the way, some growing pains, but look at us.
Look at
We're podcast
us.
hosts.
I
Like, you
know,
know
we've
what I
come
mean?
so
It's like who would
far.
have thought? Who would have thought?
I just can't believe, like, when I met you, we were in totally different places, and we've been in so many different seasons. So I'm really glad, and excited to see what's next. And I feel like it's really cool that we've gotten to support each other through those different seasons.
Absolutely. And I think, having each other in our core networks of entrepreneurs and friends has been so incredibly helpful. I want to transition into talking a little bit about the types of tools. What are some tips or what are some things that have really helped you overcome the growing pains of entrepreneurship, the challenges? And, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is really community. But I'd love to hear about some of the tools that you have put in your entrepreneurship box.
Yeah, you know what, I know you said community already, but I do want to start there because like just to really drive the point home about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And not all your friends are for like every situation. There's ride or dies that are like those multifaceted friends that you'll tell everything to, and like nothing's really off limits, and that's great. But I do think that there's value in when you have friends that are like, in business that you kind of, excuse me, can confide in that way. It's really nice because then you just feel like you can go a little bit deeper and you're not just kind of like, complaining about the same things to other friends that they might not totally relate to. And you kind of feel a little bit bad if you're dumping too much on them for that. So not only just for the rants, there are always rants. But I think,
Always.
yeah, plenty. Ava and I will just like rant about, it's usually like Instagram. It's usually something like something happening in social.
Imposter syndrome,
Yeah, like our,
family judgments.
color palettes.
Oh, color palettes have been a big one recently with
That's a
some
recent one.
rebrands.
Yeah, like production, like stuff. Like, yeah, there's that. And so it's like having a community of people who understand is nice just for the sake of like sometimes you just need to like get shit out there. And like that can come in the form of like you're ranting, or it can come in the form of like we're brainstorming and trying to figure out like what do you use and exchanging notes that way. Like, hey, this is working better for me. You should try it. And it's like a safe space to do so. That's so important, especially because, a lot of people will kind of start with mentorship, which mentorship is like, yeah, a fucking killer. But you really need to grow with people beside you as well. So, seek out mentors and all that. But like, I know for some people who might, if you're kind of at a point where you maybe if you have that or you're not focused on that, then keep building that circle. And then the next thing that I would say is like the tools that I like to use are basically, what, this actually kind of goes back to people as well. um, I really like to actually be a mentor to
Mm.
the younger generation. And I like to keep my ears close to the streets with the kids.
On the TikTok. We're there listening.
I'm officially old. But honestly, like, we have an internship program. And one thing I really love about working with students is like, they're always teaching me really cool things. And they're always kind of like sharing perspectives that I never would have really thought about. So even just in that way, I think as we kind of grow, we might look up, we might look to the side, but sometimes we need to also look to those who are on their way up, and invest in them. And then another thing is, quite specifically with like, you know, the self-care of it all and the tools for like keeping myself like mentally there, keeping myself motivated, and like especially when you're on the go, especially when you are doing all the traveling and all the clients and managing multiple things and businesses and life. I really, really try to make sure that I'm, on a regimen with like doing my like fitness workouts, whether that's like Pilates, or even if it's in the form of like I don't have time, so this is going to be like a hot girl walk type of day. I love to squeeze walks in on a daily basis. But even when it comes to like the fact that we recently got our office space and it's about a 30-minute walk from my apartment, that's perfect for me. It's like,
Mm,
it's attainable. It's something that I can do because I'm coming here anyways and I'm getting my
right.
steps in. It's something that's actually done wonders for my mental health because it's kind of giving me like a routine. So yeah, love to like walk to and from work, incorporating like walking and getting out into my schedule. And then lastly is definitely those quarterly retreats that I mentioned. So planning one right now to just kind of go somewhere. So this quarter going to be going to New Orleans to do some solo retreat
Ooh.
time, and at the end of the week it's going to also be Essence Festival down there. So gonna try to do some networking, but then also gonna go to some concerts.
So fun.
I'm
I
so
mean,
excited. It's my
that's
first one.
oh my God, I'm so excited for you. And that's like the perfect way to network. You're like, if I'm doing something that is fun, it feels fun, it's something I'm interested in, I can do a little work, I can do a little retreat, I can do a little that's a write off. Like, that is
Yeah.
a
It's
huge win.
a great blend. It's a great blend. Like again, it just feels like when you give yourself time to like work a little, play a little, then it just justifies, doing all those things.
Yes. Oh, that is so awesome. I'm excited that you're taking your quarterly retreat.
Finally.
I also have, right? I'm like, I have also committed myself to taking an actual vacation this year.
Yes.
So I'm dropping in this in the chat for accountability. But one of the things that I'm just working through at the moment is like with travel and being able to do travel reviews for the podcast and all these other things. It's like, well, when do I actually vacation, right?
Right.
Because I'm rolling everything into this is a business trip or this or that. And
Right.
I've noticed that for myself, I'm like, I need an actual vacation at
Good,
some
Ava.
point
I'm proud of
this
you.
year.
Yes.
Thank you, right? I'm like, ah.
Separation.
So yes, I need a little separation. And so that's my personal
Do you
time
have
off goal for the year.
any plans that you want to share? Any thoughts on where you're going for
I
your
have
real vacation?
thoughts. I have thoughts. So I don't have plans yet because it's not booked, but my thought is that I've been called to spend some time in Mexico for a while. Last year it was like London, 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 like have to be there. That was a spot. This year it's like Mexico City, Mexico City, Mexico
I
City.
love it.
I'm so excited and I love it too. But the vacation part of all of it, because Mexico City is not a vacation, like that's just going to be working, living, creating remotely.
Okay.
The vacation plan is to sit on the beach somewhere else in Mexico for like until I feel bored.
Oh, it's so good.
That's my personal challenge. It's like I'm going to take myself to a beach until I get so bored and ready to create again that I just can't stand it. And then I'm going to just pop over to Mexico City and do whatever I whatever
Until
I
you're
dream up on
literally
the
like
beach.
itching for some work, until you're just
Yes.
begging to be at your computer again.
Again.
Until you're just begging to be at your computer again.
Oh, yes. I thought you were telling me I was glitching.
Oh no, I think I was. I think I was glitching. I'm like, where'd I go?
Exactly. Until I'm begging to be back on the laptop. And so that will be a first for me in all aspects. And I look forward to the experiment.
I think that sounds like a great plan. So I can't wait to hear how that goes. And I might have to take a page from you and just do the same thing.
Yes, because I love the multi-purpose trip. I absolutely love that. And I do think there's something to just a vacation.
Yeah,
We'll
but
see.
I think having like for reals, like pencils down vacation is great too. So I'm planning that for that as well. You got to get those in.
I love this for us. Okay, Tiff. So, knowing everything that you know now, all of the expectations versus reality, all of the curveballs that entrepreneurship has thrown your way, all of the personal growth that comes with it, would you do it all over again?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a yes for me. My thing is like, this is the most I've ever been able to challenge myself, um, and push myself. And I don't know about you. I hope you feel the same way. But like, there's a lot of there's a lot of like satisfaction that comes from seeing what you've built. And it's one of those things too where like tomorrow you can change your mind. If you don't want to do anymore, you can always do something else. It's not like the end all be all, but to this point and in this moment, all the things that I've built so far, I love it. I definitely think that there would be no other way that I could learn as much as I've learned in such a short time. Like every day is a challenge when you're an entrepreneur because shit's fucking breaking everywhere. Like there's like these little fires everywhere that you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you figure it out and you're like, okay, like now I know how to do that. Sick.
Totally. It is like life school in a way.
Yeah.
Like I know we've got our 4-year degrees for these things and we have our qualifications, but there is something about entrepreneurship where it is really like an accelerated period
Mm-hmm.
of growth personally and professionally. And I'm glad to hear that you are loving all aspects of it because I'm with you. It is definitely it's a ride.
It's
It's a
a ride.
wild ride.
It's a ride. So buckle the fuck up and get you some people
Buckle up,
to
bitches.
to talk to about it. People to talk to include or not limited to fellow entrepreneurs, therapists, pets,
Mm.
people on the street. Just depends.
including
Just depends.
including but not limited to. Absolutely. I love that. Tiff, is there anything else that you would love to share today with the More Pod fam?
Yes, I would like to share that, we, meaning my agency brand Curators, we are super passionate about, like you mentioned at the start of the show, amplifying diverse voices, super rooted in, storytelling and really helping founders, entrepreneurs, and creators be able to like gain their exposure and visibility. So if you are someone who's looking to kind of break through the noise, like you started a business and you just want some feedback or advice on how to elevate your personal brand, how to step into that main character energy, you can start by listening to Main Character Energy, of course. And then if you want any extra guidance or support, we are here to, help consult, help be able to take people on the same journey of, maybe trying to give some advice on things that could help you out that I wish I knew at the beginning. So always here to help, especially if you are an emerging entrepreneur creator.
Absolutely. And I will include all of your important links in the show notes so people will know where to find you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiff, for joining the podcast. I absolutely adore you. I
I adore
feel
you.
super grateful. Oh, thank you. I feel super grateful to have you as a friend and in my corner. And I just, I love our conversations. Like, this is actually how we chat when we Zoom and we catch up. And so I think it's been really fun to bring a recorded version to the podcast. And
Yes.
I hope that it's helpful for entrepreneurs, anyone who's considering starting a business, anyone who's in the thick of it. And thank you so much. And I think we're going to continue this conversation.
Yes.
So we're going to do part 2 on main character energy with Tiff Knighten.
Yes, we will. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for having me, Ava.
Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.